Boom. Yeah, we're back. Welcome back to GG Bet News. This is the segment where I give you the update on everything that's been happening in the CS world. Last one we did was about the Blast Paris Major. This one is everything that's been going on in the off season. So right now, it is the player break, as you guys know. I think this has been one of the craziest Rostermania scenarios that we've ever had because we got a new game coming out. So when CS2 is on the horizon, people are looking to make drastic moves. So I've got a list here of like the ones I want to touch on. Some of them I'm less interested in. Some of them is like they're okay, you know, like it's this is interesting. I'm gonna give you my thoughts. If there's some other roster moves you guys want me to touch on, I'm gonna touch on the obvious ones like Vitality, NAVI, you know, keep it going like that. That as well for me with Astralis, like they took a massive risk signing Hunden with all the drama, and then you decide to get rid of him anyway. So you took all that bad PR and all that bad publicity to then get rid of him when the team actually start to do a bit better. Not ideal, really, if we're honest. Then they move Zip to the Astralis talent team, and you're like, okay, well, that was a move I could get behind. I'm all for that. Now, listen to this. Glaive benched. What do you guys think about Glaive being benched? For me, it made sense and it was maybe a long time coming, but I don't agree with it because I would say that Device was playing good and this is what he's used to, but maybe BlameF was calling more than what we expected. Now, the interesting move here is Stair. We've heard about a Stair going to Astralis for a long time and that he is who they wanted. I agree with this signing completely. Then you have Borop in there. Now, Borop, everyone's giving him so much flack, but this is not a bad player. I also think Astralis aren't in a position to attract too many players that will fit what they need. It's kind of a weird situation for the Danes at the moment. They're no longer the team everyone wants to join. But this roster move is like, it's positive, but BlameF taking over the IGLing, it's a lot that he's going to have to do and still perform. It's gonna be so tough for him still. I just think like Device was putting up 30 kills in loads of games over and over again, looking really solid, playing his role, and they still weren't able to get as far as what you would have hoped with the name say. But maybe because obviously Dupree's gone as well. Glaive and Dupree come together somehow. I don't know who would be able to fucking afford Glaive though. I don't know what his buyout would be, but that would be wild. At least they didn't put him to Astralis talent. I guess they would have said like, imagine saying that like Glaive's on Astralis talent. Liquid right now are NAF, OC, Yakinda, Rainwalker, and Patsy. They now have a European flag by the side of their name. They are now looking to play the game on hard mode, on extra hard mode. You have given up your like almost guaranteed major spot through North America and risking it all. It's actually wild, dude. It's so wild. Rainwalker came from 500. Now, for the Bulgarian side, the Bulgarian players have had a lot of individually talented players at times, but when they stayed with just Bulgarian lineups, they've never gone to as heights they wanted to. Now, when I speak to these Bulgarian guys at events, you know, when we were doing these like tier 2 events and stuff, they come with such passion. They've got loads of skilled players, but then they couldn't like quite get it together and go to the next step. For Rainwalker, getting an opportunity to play on Liquid, you're never going to say no to. And his stats aren't terrible. Like, he's got good stats. So I'm not against this signing. Now, Patsy, when he first came onto Spirit, I was so hyped about him. I thought, this is dope. He's a player we've been talking about a lot over and over again. But for whatever reason recently, I'd say like the start of this year onwards, I think at the majors is where, let me look down his event stats. At the majors, he was dope. Yeah, Rio Major. So it was basically after Katowice. So yeah, 2023 has been terrible for him. But before that, he was a beast. Before that, you're looking like this is great numbers. Antwerp Major, Rio Major. And then afterwards, it was just, it was not good. So he still has potential. He's 19. So this is a very young roster for Liquid. I do feel though with this move. So Nav himself wanted to really push, right, to be in Europe. His girlfriend's from Europe as well, so being over there's not a problem for him. I don't know if OC's girlfriend's from Europe. I don't even know if OC has a girlfriend. I think I've seen him at an event with a girlfriend. But maybe OC's like young enough where he's fine to move over. You know, they removed the liege. Now people are kind of umming and ahhing on Liquid removing a liege. I like this move because it's for them to push further on their goals. Like, Elise was a core player, 8 years on Liquid. Absolute respect for him. One of the best North American players to do it. He's the second best ever North American player after Twists in my eyes. But obviously he's getting older. His performance was slowing down a bit. You're bringing in some of the new blood. Liquid is a tier 1 organization the whole way. And I thought maybe like Elige would go into the IGL role. But then when Yakinda took it, you thought, maybe then it's kind of GG for what Elige can offer. Now, Naf, no matter what role you put him in, now whatever position you put him in, he's dominant. OC has been good, but I would say that under all the leadership we've had for Liquid, he's not really had the space or a way to shine. But just imagine if now Yakinda lets him go off a little bit more, build him up some confidence. I feel like if you could have OC play well, then this could solve some of their problems. And OC doesn't have bad stats. OC doesn't play bad. Is an individual. He's not costing them rounds. But imagine if you can go a step further. That would be absolutely brilliant. It's just there's so many questions around how this is going to come. And also chemistry. Are you going to talk about, when you go to like these international rosters, it's chemistry. You're not always just going to come together and be right. Like Yakinda came into Liquid and everyone was so happy. And this was dope. They were all like, oh, I'm enjoying playing with him. He comes with new ideas, all this cool stuff. And I was like, awesome. But it's a little bit different now when you're adding so much change in there. I'm not blaming the organization because I love Jason Lake and Messioso. He's someone I've known for a long time and I've got a lot of respect for him. But I'm just confused so much of the potential that was never seen within this roster. Now, Alicia's joined. Fang's been put on the transfer list, which is like bench, right? You, as Complexity, can't say no to a player like Elige. This is a star-level player in experience and what he can bring to the team. I just thought that they would remove JT and try and get Elige to IGL, but maybe Elige just doesn't want to IGL. And then they would have like a full North American roster. But I guess also TC as a coach maybe doesn't want it to happen, so there's that potential as well. And it's nothing against JT. Sometimes actually he's like, Monster just goes out there, entry fragging IGL that pops off. And I get pretty hyped about, pretty excited about. But like Grim started peaking at the beginning of the year. Do you remember Katowice, Blast spring groups? He was coming in and looking really dominant. Hulzerk, obviously, if we ignore the events he couldn't go to in North America, he has been the star player they needed and wanted. Floppy at times was looking better and he was at least playing his role well. The Fang situation is, if you go back to, what was it, that Fun Spark ulti that they came second place in as Extra Salt, that's the good old days of Fang, right? And if you guys go back, and this is no bullshit, I asked him on interviews, at Blast, and at other events, I said, Fang, like, for me, I feel like you have a mental block. Like, sometimes, against, like, say you go into the Imperial games, he'll pop off in those games. When he comes up against, like, the tough teams, and he just doesn't have it. He's like, his head's not in it. And he even said on one of the interviews with me, oh yeah, like I need to work on this side of things. I think, isn't that also up to Complexity to try and, I don't know if they have a psychologist. I don't think they do. They got rid of their analyst as well. But there is potential within the players and within this roster. I understand why Fang went. I'm not saying he shouldn't have gone, but I just feel like was enough done to make him perform to the best of his ability. Because it's a lot of pressure when you go on a team like Complexity compared to where he was before, you know? So I am sad that we're going to see Fang gone from the roster. But Elige, like, that's fucking huge. The experience, the kind of leadership qualities he can bring, even though he's not going to be the in-game leader, and what he can help with these guys is amazing. It is going to be interesting to see. I don't know how him and Grimm's relationship was when it was on Liquid. I've got no insight on that. But they can come back together and they have some ideas of how they want to play things. Evil Geniuses. This is the move I wanted to see. Now, Maui Snake, he was the one petitioning for them to go full NA for a long, long time. Now, okay, some of the things was like, look at this. Evil Genius, this is from HLTV. Evil Genius initially targeted a number of international players during their rebuild phase, engaging in discussions with the likes of Zorte, he's the Forza player, Jax, we all know Jax, and then Electronic. I know Dennis pretty well. I don't think he was ever going to EG, even if they offered him the bag, the kitchen sink, and a whole house. I don't think Electronic's ready for full English speaking. I don't believe that rumor for a second. I might have to just DM him and ask him and say, like, what was this ever a conversation? Ever? I think that's one of them rumors that just didn't exist, personally. One of the ones that was thrown out into the wild to potentially get a bigger paycheck for him. But they then remove... So let me just go through this. Wiz, I'm a little bit sad he goes, but it makes sense. Refresh, I love Refresh, but I don't want to see the Europeans on this roster. Nilan, you had your time, things didn't work out. Okay, you're gone. The big one is they get rid of Breeze as well. Now, I don't know how things would work, right? But I'm going to theorycraft for you. Remember, this is my opinions, not something I know of. Breeze has been on the roster for a long time. His salary is going to be substantially higher than many of the other players, despite their bad placements. He comes from a time where there was even a number one team in the world at one point. Remember the online era? So Breeze himself would have had probably a lot of cost around his name. And he is at times a good player, but this is not the EG he used to be part of. This is not the EG where Breeze was dominant. So, bringing in the young guns that you had from, it was EG Black, they had all the like the blueprint and stuff that I don't actually care about any of that. That was just, it was so messy. When I heard they were going for European players though, I was like, this was horrible. Like, North America needs help. Please, EG, this is what you should be doing. So listen to this. They keep automatic. They bring in Junior, George, Walco, and Hext. Now, there is one part I don't like in this. Is Rush also gets to come across, but because automatic came from the main roster, Rush is the substitute. So there's a lot of young blood on this, and you could argue and say that yes, Junior is maybe one more of the experienced players on that, and Hex had his little bit of time on the main EG roster. But I feel like you should have automatic and Rush together. Now, Hext is the one I have the biggest question mark about, because for Walco, George, and Junior, they know how badly they want this opportunity and to do well and to be able to fight this. Hex had his chance on the main EG roster, and he, by the way, we loved him at Blast because he was shouting, screaming, hyped. But, this is a big but, when he wasn't doing so well, it was rough. It was bad times. So maybe they will kind of bring Rush in a little bit when one of these players is not having such a good time. But I would have liked to see Rush be on the main roster to help some of these younger ones. Yeah. So this is it. This is where, let's see how they do at Blast Groups. I'm really happy EG have gone to North America. But I will say to that silly sausage performance coach, manager, whatever the she is, she put unnecessary amounts of pressure on the team and was like making tweets that don't help your team perform at all and write utter garbage to talent and attack them on tweets from doing their job. If she just doesn't do that, just zip it. Just say nothing. Let the team play. If they do well, we're all going to praise EG and be like, yes, these young guns and some of the experienced players are getting it done. But if they don't do well, we're not going to be like, okay, they're trying, you know? When you had the European players, it brought extra expectations. So this is an EG. I'm behind this EG. Not the organization, to be clear. But I'm behind the direction they're going in. OG, you had Flames, yeah? And obviously, we'll come back onto it later. He has gone off to Vitality, on to much better situation. OG is a legendary organization within Dota, but CS has been, I don't know, less than kind to them. They've got partner slots. They've put money into the team. Now I'm going to theory craft a little bit here. So Nexa went on temporary leave. In what I know and what I've read, I've not seen anything that says publicly why it was or what his reasons were. But Nexa, for me, when he was removed from G2, I don't think it was the right decision. I think they should have given him some time to play with m0NESY and that version of so m0NESY, JKS, Nico, Hunter, Nexa. That I would have loved to have seen. I think that would have been a great opportunity for a great team. But obviously they didn't want to go that way. Then he goes to OG. At the beginning of OG, things were looking better. Then he goes on this temporary leave. It was after Dexter come in. The roster wasn't that stable. Now, Dexter is a player that takes so much space. And if you notice, Dexter is now no longer on the roster. Flames has gone as well. Neofrag is... So, when Dexter came into the team, Fico and Neofrag dropped off because he took so much space. And I don't know who makes decisions and how this works, but there was a lot of confusing decisions around this team. Let's read Dexter. Is he on the bench? Yeah, he's benched on OG. So, he's benched for now. Super Slap is benched. The Imperial, Valiance, crazy. Before G2, Nexa was always working with players that were not superstars, that you had a few good players, but they weren't super experienced. He made the best out of what he could get. But I struggle to get excited about this new team because it consists of keeping Fiku. Regali was just trying out for them during Dallas, and now he's like main on the roster. Keto comes in from Big and Fasha from Fnatic. So let's just go through these players. Fasha, he has potential. At Katowice, when I was speaking to him, he himself was like, I need to find my consistency. I need to find my form. Under a leader like Nexa, I think he can do well. But he's not a star player. That's not his role. Fair enough. Keto. Not a star player either, but at times, there are many moments in my mind for Big where Keto has bailed them out. Now, if you go down his individual stats and performances, we go complete statistics for him. And I'm going to do it I'm going to do events to start off with. He had some like terrible online performances, some high peaks every now and again. But my God, there is a lot of red here. There is a lot of red. And it's not all numbers, right? It's not all numbers that tell the full picture. But then you've got Fiku. Not a star player, but an amazing player for a team. He is a good teammate. I have no complaints about them keeping Fiku. But you see the point I'm going here. Where is the star power? Because Regali, by the way, I met Regali first season of the We Play Academy League. Regali has star potential, but this is his first chance at a tier 1 team. Fnatic didn't take him back when he was on the Fnatic Academy roster. They went for Nico Dodds, who's also now benched or gone from that team. Regali needs more time to be in a star performance. So I'm struggling to see what output OG are going to have. Who are they going to beat? Their first game is against FaZe. It's going to take a lot of time. Now, the positive, Nexa, Fiku, Regali, Fasha and Keto, big question marks. It's all going to come down to how their role is going to be. The one thing I will say is Rugger, pretty good coach, and also Kakafu. They have a good support team behind them, and Nexa can work with less good pieces. But this doesn't, like, none of this gets me excited. This doesn't make me say, like, oh, yeah, this OG, like, if I was an analyst talking on a desk about OG, it's just going to be the same again. Like, maybe it works for a little bit while, you know? Maybe he will have a chance. It's a rough one, if I'm being honest. It doesn't feed me of any, like, woohoo. All right, let's get on to Mousesports. Mousesports has become very interesting because they still need to sign one player. One player needs to join this roster. Now, they have the luxury of not being a blast team. They are just an ESL partner team. But I've got news for you because I have not been told by anyone on Mouse, but I have been told by other players and other people the situation with Shuhei. So let's go through this. First of all, the one I didn't agree with is JDC. They benched JDC. Now, look down JDC's stats, look at his numbers, and you'll go, oh, I can see why. This is one of the moves where the numbers don't tell the full picture. It doesn't tell the story because JDC did so much for that team, changing in how he played and who he played for to enable players to perform well. JDC was a hugely positive player for this Mouse roster in and out of the server. When he was able to play the way he did on NXT, you look at his numbers, they were great. But they changed and chopped so much around him. And I think he did the interview with me in Dallas. It was like a long interview when we had a bit of downtime. We had to like give an hour between the games, right? We had like the fixed start times. And JDC himself said sometimes he is being too much of a sacrifice for the team. It's at his detriment. And then he gets cut. I don't agree with it at all. But I said the only way I agree with it is if the next move they make, the next player they add, is a huge plus. I did think Dexter would go, because at the time Dexter hadn't gone when JDC was removed. Then they said that Dexter is gone. And I was like, okay, I can see it. Because you want to bring in this potential of like a better IGL, someone to lead this team. Cyclone now being the coach. Remember, Torzi, Zershan from the NXT roster, they won 3 with Cyclone and Shuhei and all those guys at the Academy Leagues. Shuhei didn't get a chance to go to the main roster, and then he was pushed back off it. But, hear this. It doesn't, on Wikipedia, it doesn't say this, but I've been told by other players, Shuhei was on loan to Gamer Legion. He was not bored, he was not over. I don't have proof of this, I've just been told by other players that Shuhei was on loan to Gamer Legion. So that means he comes back to Mouse, and now he comes back with more experience, more time. Yeah, he came second at a major. Doesn't matter what anyone says about him. He did that with team. Like, Imo was playing insane. But Gamer Legion right now was like selling players, falling apart a bit, right? When you're losing big names. And then Shuhei now back to Mouse. Mouse just, they had the bag and they went, oh, we just benefit from this. Because obviously they would have put a lot of money into Dexter, right? To move him from Oceania, from Australia, bring him over to Europe. You got to give him some time. You hit many playoff positions as well, right? Many playoff positions with a young team. Now, Frozen, you're never going to touch him. Frozen has been a god. Frozen's numbers are absolutely ridiculous. You look down his numbers at events, complete stats. You look down Frozen. It's just green. It's just green everywhere. And no matter what team, no matter what he's doing, Frozen has been a beast. That's a star player you want on Rifle. He was not on loan officially since it's allowed from Valve Banks. However, there was most likely something in the contract. See? So, Dexter gone, Shuhei back in. This situation benefits Mouse. He comes from Mouse NXT. He's now on the main roster. He's earned his chance. He improved, and he showed he could do it with another team, and now he's ready to do it for Mouse. Brilliant. He's back with Torzi and Zershan. Torzi still has some up and down moments. I'm still believing he can do better, but he's not done like the Munacy level up, and obviously that's Munacy is a kind of one of a kind player. But Zershan, Zershan and Frozen, you just build teams around him all day long. Those two, brilliant. But then, listen to this. I was very against this whole JDC thing, right? But then I looked, and this is people were telling me about him, and I didn't know. So you've got Mouse NXT, and there's this player from Finland, Jimvat. This kid has got good numbers. Everyone's hyped about him. He's motivated, and he's playing like crazy. You bring him up from the academy. So you have players who've already gone from the academy. Yeah. And then you have this could be the best Mouse roster we've seen since the days of like Chris J and Nico in their prime. This is going to be nuts. So I think that's what's going to happen. It's not there yet. But look at me saying it. I'm saying it on the 4th of July, 10:55 in the UK. They bring him in. Cyclone is, by the way, Cyclone is a coach, and him and JDC built this team and found the players. They found the original NXT team. Yeah. They've done God's work. God's work is an academy roster. 4 Academy League titles, 3 with the Cyclone, Zershan, Torze, Shuhei, JDC. 4 out of your 5 Academy League players were successful, and this process is working. It's working really well. It's like them and Navi Jr. who have just managed to make it happen in a big way. All right, so the next one, Furia. The Furia one is insane. So, what do people in chat think about Fallen? Just give me your honest opinions on Fallen, where he's at now. Sleep well, Beyond. Because the comments I see, it's like, oh, Fallen's washed. Oh, Fallen's not motivated. Blah, 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 all this other stuff. I don't need Fallen to be the superstar. I need Fallen to lead. He is a leader as a man. Fallen can inspire the out of everyone. See you later, Shushan. I'm hoping I'll see you soon, man. Always got love for you. Thank you so much for the host as well. Past his prime, but good if he can keep up with the meta. Could take a lot of art and let him play pure entry and if input here and there. So, I don't speak Portuguese, but there was a stream on Gaules after this announcement, and they basically discussed how they would make this team work. I've not seen any transcripts of it yet. I've not seen any information, so I can't give my thoughts on that. But it was confirmed, and Fallen said it in his video, if you watch the announcement video, that he will be the IGL, and they want to take some of the ideas of what they had on Furia and what they're going to do and add his little flavor to it. Fallen is a sick IGL. He does not need to have insane numbers. He is not God of playing and dominating the game as an AWPer. If you can now, like Queserato and Yuri have been dominant no matter what players had to play with. I'm never arguing, like I'm not happy to see any players kick from a team, but I'm happy to see Drop and Safe go because it just wasn't working. Now, it's all about this Fury roster for me. It's not Cello. Cello, by the way, is great. I know a lot of people are talking about Jota, but I prefer Cello. I always said, if you hear me on desks or on interviews or in things when I'm talking with other people, I was always saying good things about Cello. Queserato, Yuri, and Cello is impressive. Dude, this is going to be nuts. This is going to be pure impact. Cello has that energy. When Cello gets going, Cello overpass is where I just see these God moments where he's just ripping through teams and players. Queserato and Yuri have been so good as a double team duo for so long. And now Art is going to be unleashed to not IGL. But the main thing is how we see Art, Fallen, and Gary. Remember, Gary as a coach as well, I don't think at times gets enough credit for what he does. But if you can get those three to build chemistry together and have an understanding of how they want to play, this could be the best Furia we have ever seen. Ever. I will not expect Fallen to come through and be super amazing, AWPer dominating, but if he just hits his shots and plays, like someone mentioned in chat, a supportive AWPer role, this could be a Fury. I'm going to be like, woo! And they're not playing Blast. They're not a Blast team. So they've got time to build all of this. And also, they have got a European office in Malta. They're going to practice them like Fallen is going to Europe to play. This is sick. You have some of Art's wild aggression and let him off. But if he listens when Fallen says, okay, we're coming back into it. Some of this key mid-rounding. Oh, this is going to get me hyped. I'll be wearing a Furia jersey all day long. But yeah, Cello, Queserato, Yuri. Oh, it's Counter-Strike, Brazilian Counter-Strike wet dream right now. You could not have asked for a better signing than Cello in adding to that mix. And then Art being let off to do well. and they're going to be playing in Europe and practicing in Europe. Again, this is a lot of stress on the terms of how these guys will be away from home, but they've done this before when going to North America, right? But the practice is not good there. This is looking at bringing Furia back up, and it's all about chemistry for Furia and NAVI, who have made the biggest changes. It's all about chemistry. Now, Furia will win Cologne. I'm not agreeing with at all. It's going to take more time than that. But they now have the pieces to be a title contending team. And I think a lot of these teams are building for the success of going into the next major and the next 6 months. Like, I will say for Furia, I'm still expecting to see good success in 3 months of having this roster together, because they're still the same nationality, still speaking the same language. It's a big style change. But my God. This move is big play coming out from the owners of Furia. Money was spent. I was hearing $700,000 for Fallen. By the way, I will say, Imperial. Imperial. The last dance that never became a last dance. Good night, Keiki. This went from being last dance into the revitalization of Fallen. This became sick. I am so, like, this is the most excited I have been for them in a long time. So Furia, this is gonna be sick. This was not Fallen's last dance. He said he was motivated when I was doing the interviews with him at Blast. And do you know what? I loved how honest he was about the situation. Like, this is what we're doing. We're just gonna do the best we can. And he was saying about pain and saying about the whole thing. This is like, he was heavily wanted, and Furia won big time. This is it, man. 700K. Yeah, with his social media, with his brand presence and what he can sell just in jerseys and stuff, especially for the Brazilian audience, I know what Fallen can do. Next roster, Vitality. Now, this one made some people unhappy, made some people very happy. I am in the middle. I shed a tear for Dupree. Now, Dupree is a legend of the game. He is the only player in CSGO to win 5 majors. 30 years old. He has a kid. He has a family. He is certainly not playing badly. But when you are a team like Vitality, who already made harsh decisions on the French roster to make Zyru talk English, yeah, get Apex talking English and get them all moving over and building with the Danes, they're looking at making a big move, because this is a huge improvement. Spinks and Flames on the same team. For Flames dedicated himself to OG for, like, he left Endpoint, went to OG. That's his tier 1 career started, in my opinion. And he dedicated his time to an OG. Now, some people were saying, oh, Flames is overrated, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, Flames was the most wanted player in this offseason. Most teams, Liquid wanted him. Probably not. I don't know at all, by the way, but probably Navi wanted him. Flames was a hot prospect for so many tier 1 teams. If they had a chance of getting Flames, people wanted him. Vitality came and he got that offer. Now, I will say on some of this, though, your agents will go out there and say, oh, well, this team wanted him, this team wanted him, to try and drive the price up of the player. It happens in football. This is going to happen in our industry as well. But Flames still performed good, still did so much for OG with all different changes of rosters, in-game lead. Flames saw everything. Flames saw Alexi B lead. He saw Nexa lead. He saw Nico lead. Danish Nico lead, you know? He went through everything. He went through having Dexter next to him. Danish Nico. Not capital N, not capital K. Flames had to go with so much and still had good performances and still was able to do really well. He is a sick player. This is an upgrade for Vitality, and I will say 100% that this is going for, like, right now, Vitality are the scariest team going. This is a team that can, one player changes not too much. Also, hugely impressive background staff. Not just Zonic, but like analyst, who Matt they've got in there. And then also the performance coach as well. Like all these things setting themselves up for success and for the future. And Flames, by the way, is still 19. Am I getting this age right? 20. He's 20. This is nuts. Like the average age of vitality, even with an old boy like Apex. Sorry, Apex, do love you, mate, but you are old. Their average age is only 24. And look at this. Magic is 25, I think. Yep. And Dan is 30. Yeah. And then you've got Zywoo, Flames, Spinks. So Zywoo, 22. Flames, 20. Spinks, 22. Like, this is sick. This team is so good. Oh, I cannot. Well, who's their first game in Blast? Evil Geniuses. Well, I feel bad for EG, but we're gonna watch them. Oh, they won the major already. They're gonna go in for the first major of CS2. Obviously, so much can change in CS2. That's another thing. But this, not for me, Vitality. They won in this. They won. Oh, what a great decision. Now, I am the ultimate and the number one NAVI fan. This is my team. This is the team I love. But this is the wildest roster move I could possibly think of. I just want to go through how wild this is. First of all, let's touch on this. Some people were saying that Perfecto and Electronic wanted to leave NAVI and it was their decision. The other thing is the CEO of NAVI was saying they wanted to look at international and they would look at international. They are doing it with a lot of their rosters. We're in a situation where obviously the war is going on. And I don't know if the war is the reason why they had to remove Perfecto and Electronic. But Perfecto is a huge... Electronic is a massive loss. Massive. But obviously he was between in-game leading and then being obviously with Simple for like 6 years of playing together. The thing that's wild here is how much of a downgrade, upgrade in different roles you got. So let's go through this. Simple was not playing to his best level ever. And I don't think that's down to Electronics IGLing. I don't think that was like, there are situations in the world, him not being at home. He does finally have an apartment. That's why he's been streaming, right? He's looking like he's getting back on track with that. Now, Simple will probably play better or at least at the same level. Simple is Simple. This is the greatest player to ever play CSGO. Now, if we look at Bit, he is going to play worse. I guarantee it, because Bit is great at FPL, but his English is not the strongest. And I love Bit. He came in as Rookie of the Year, super sick player when he came onto NAVI, very experienced. Yeah? But for him, speaking English, when it comes to this level of CS, I'm not talking Face It, I'm talking about Tier 1 Counter-Strike at the highest level. It is going to be very hard for this guy. It's going to take more than 3 months to adjust. Especially where Simple obviously has very capable English. Same for Ima, JL, and Alexi. This comms is going to be very difficult for him. Now, you've got Simple, same level. Bit's gone down. Now, if we look at the trade-off here, so let's say Alexi is a 1-for-1 trade of Electronic from the IGL role. Alexi is not going to have the numbers of Electronic. It's just not going to happen. But on paper, he would be a better in-game leader. Now, there is so many people saying, Alexi is such a bad in-game leader. Why? Why do people... He took OG to their highest ever ranks that they've ever been. Yeah? He made Finnish Counter-Strike be put back on the map again, where we didn't think that was ever going to be possible. People who think that Alexi B is a bad IGL, I don't think understand Counter-Strike. Now, I don't know every bit of Counter-Strike, and I'm not a big brain, fully like some of the analysts out there, but I think Alexi is a good IGL. Now, I will say, on NIP, he didn't perform great, but also he got Config to come in at one point. He had an Academy League player fill in for Hampus at one point. Just to see, do you remember, I did an interview at Spring, and Alexi was like, We finally got a roster together. It's all going to be nice and normal. And then Hampers is gone. And then he gets Hedrick as well in his rookie year. He basically raised Monacy and Hedrick onto tier 1 teams and like handheld them. By the way, Alexi B is a great micromanager, but he's getting fucked in these situations. So that's not fair. Now the G2 one is probably the only one where I say it can have like a bad mark on Alexi. But other than that, he's not a bad IGL. Now, he's got to get Simple on the same page as him and to listen. He's got to work with Blade. Blade, by the way, going for his first international team. There is a lot to do on this as well. So, this is tough. Now, Imma is an upgrade if he's replacing... So, Imma kind of balances out this loss of fragging you had, because, like, Electronic wasn't fragging like his golden days, because he was IGLing. But obviously, he's a lot better than Alexi. But the IGLing will be better than Alexi. So, Imma makes up the difference here. But the thing with me with Imma is he is a sick player from what we saw. He had a great major under Gamer Legion. Now he's got to do it consistently on the best events with all the pressure and the eyes on him and what people expect from him. I hope he can handle it. And if he can, well, you're on to a massive winner. This is, the secondary star, 100%. 100% that's where they're putting him. And he has it in him. But there is so much expected of him, so many people looking at him. You're no longer on Game Legion. You are wearing that NAVI badge. It comes with this extra pressure. But I do think from talking to him, he is a player that can handle it. Because if you look in the grand final, it looked like he was going to bot out from the pressure. And then he still came back in to put up numbers, which if they had won, he would have been the MVP of the Paris Major. He would have been the MVP of the Paris Major. Then, so we say he replaces like the ability of Perfecto and MPL. This Navi roster is more balanced than what people think. And then JL. JL is not Perfecto. Perfecto is one of the best support players ever to touch the game and in the world. Number 1 in 2021. Number 1 or 2 in 22. You know? But JL also brings a hugely positive, fun, like there is no negative JL I've seen. He can sometimes say like my performance was bad, but he is a good teammate. And you know Cuban from the old Polish legendary lineup, the Golden 5 and 1.6, went on to coach them as well. He was the one who was on Mad Lions of JL, saw this talent and brought him with him. JL is going to be good. I feel like JL knows how good this opportunity is, and I don't think he's not a player I look at and I think like you're going to be weak, you know, in some way. You're going to crumble. No, JL I think is a man he can take it. He'll do what's needed. This Navi roster is absolutely insane, and I say for most new rosters, you need 3 to 6 months, right, to get it together. You need a minimum of 6 months for this roster to build chemistry. Minimum 6 months. I think they're looking at the next major's in March. How many months is that away? 9, 10, 11, 12, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're looking at 8 months until the next major. So they could be looking to peak going into the next major for CS2. I have to use my fingers. Shut up. I think that's how it's going to be. I think that is where we're going to see the peak for Navi. It's going to take some time with it, but it does get me excited. And people can say I'm biased and Navi's the team I love. Yeah, sure, whatever. This looks so good. This roster looks phenomenal. Okay, I'm going to go down this as my roster moves ranked. The best roster move so far of Rostermania, Vitality. Vitality by far. This was a golden signing. This is a huge upgrade. Everything in their favor. My second one is going to be Navi. Now, even with my bias taken away, the potential here for them is huge, but it's also the biggest challenge they've ever done. But if it pays off, they are going to look like geniuses, and I have huge amounts of confidence in Blade. Number 3 is Mousesports, because Shuhei, oh my god, like look at what he can do. And if they do add gym fat, remember I'm saying this with just my own Thoughts. If they add Gym Fat as well, that's God tier. Furia, my 4th highest one. The Fallen Cello move, brilliant. Keeping your core as well. For 5, gone Complexity, because just adding Elige is a huge boost to that North American team. 6 is the Astralis one, benching Glaive, signing Stare and Borup. 7 is Liquid, because going Europeans made things a lot tougher for him. Rainwalker, Patsy, I'm just kind of a little bit about. 8 is the OG new roster, because I still think they're lacking any star players. But Nectar can work well with these players. I think he has that potential in him. And 9, EG promoting their Americans across. It's a good move for EG, but it's just not going to see him jump up too much. So that's why I put these roster moves so far. Now the Cloud9 one that I know we should discuss, because it hasn't happened yet. There's no information about it. But if they sign Perfecto and Electronic, I would love to see. By the way, I've got a wild theory here. My wild theory. People were saying they should get rid of Hobbit and Booster. I think they should get rid of Nafani and Booster. I actually think maybe you put Hobbit to IGL. Yeah. And then you have Electronic go back to being. So imagine having Shiro, Axar, and Electronic dominant as ever. Hobbit, IGL, and then Perfecto. Yeah, but some people were saying that Nafani was going to stay. We don't know anything. By the way, there's all these leaks, but there's no information just yet. But if you're Cloud9, you 100%, and Cloud9 have money. Cloud9 have money. You 100%, you take Electronic and Perfecto. You can't say no. I don't know if Electronic wants to continue IGLing. I don't know if that's the thing he wants to try and continue forward in. But it's an interesting one. Yeah, dude, Nafani was great during the online era, and obviously there was a lot of input that could have been had from Groove, the coach, as well. He's definitely been vocal on the team's problems and the things not going well for him. Dude, I'm seeing Shiro do this after so many rounds, and he wasn't a tilter before. He didn't show much emotion, but he wasn't a tilter at all. Like, I don't know what was going on, but things were falling apart for him. Dude, some people were calling for Hobbit to go. People were saying it quite openly. But yeah, I don't want Hobbit to go. I would love to see Hobbit take over the IGL role. He's super experienced. Bit older in there as well. Dude, they were looking so frustrated and out of it at these recent events. And even like, we're getting prime Shiro and Axar. Like, there is no way we need to let that go. There's no way. So put that with Electronic. The best support player in the world, one of the best riflers of all time, with the up-and-coming best rifle of all time, and Shiro. That could be a nutty roster. That could be nutty. We'll have to see how it goes. We don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully you've enjoyed my little roster update, people.